I'm now joined by two of our friends from Bloomington, Elroy Alex and Tiki Vengler. Welcome to Community Crossroads.
Good morning, it's good to be here.
It's great to see y'all, and we're here to talk about a very important topic, Bloomington.
Yes, near and dear to our hearts.
Near and dear to our hearts. And before we get into what's to come or what's coming up for the community, let's take a look back and talk about the history of Bloomington.
Growing up in Bloomington, I got there as soon as I could, first grade, and it was home. I walked back and forth to school, grew up living close to the Catholic Church, Miss Key's little dry goods stores where I bought my yarn so I could learn to crochet. Mr. Page, Mr. Alvin Wynn found a place for me to keep a horse. It's just a community pulled together to take care of so many of us. There were no concerns about us being out and about. Bill's Golf Station, the pool table in the back. We don't talk about who skipped school to stay there. Couldn't tell that story. The little cafes that were there, riding a bike to the store in the mornings for the Sunday paper for my dad. Neighborhood play parties, just good times.
It was
good
like
times.
Out of Mayberry's.
Just about. Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And Elroy, does this sound familiar? Was your childhood in Bloomington like this?
I actually came to Bloomington in 7th grade.
Oh, wow.
And was really welcomed by everybody. Ended up getting me into football there locally and Little League and just all sorts of things.
Were they the Bobcats then?
Yes, they were the Bobcats, yes.
What position did you play?
I played center and nose guard.
And nose guard. And so 7th grade, did you ever leave the community and come back?
Nope, been there ever since and raised 7 kids there.
Wow, 7 kids.
Yeah.
Do you own your own home?
Yes.
Wow, that's a big house.
We
probably.
built it. We built it.
Well, we spoke with, I got to speak with several of the, I guess, original Bloomington families or their descendants.
Yes.
And a lot of them did talk about building their own homes. And in a community that's unincorporated like Bloomington, you could take some liberties, you aren't as restricted, which can be a silver lining.
Well, I'll promise you, Elroy took no liberties with his home. He was a product of Gerald Schaefer's building trades class there in Bloomington, and they had a waiting list 10 plus years that community members would put in to have their home built by this class, and the first year was the foundation and plumbing, the second year was the walls up. Everything from the cabinets, I mean everything.
Built by the students.
Built by the students.
Talk about career pathways.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow.
And so they learned the right way to build, and that's how things were done.
And did y'all have, or do you have family members or friends that work for the railroad? I mean, that was one of the biggest reasons Bloomington came to be, and it's actually named after Bloomington, Illinois, where a lot of those settlers came from.
Yes, my dad was an engineer started with Missouri Pacific years back, and he was one of the last crew that came up as a brakeman and then went into Arkansas for the training to be an engineer. One of the last crew that was allowed to work their way up through the ranks, so to speak.
And did family members get incentives, like travel incentives?
He had been at Alcoa, so we didn't, that's after the passenger train time.
Yes.
You're taking me back a couple more years.
Well, some of the people I got to speak with, they talked about those times and even getting on the train and taking it all the way to Depot Street. Did y'all ever do that?
No, I actually never got to ride a passenger train. That was before my time, but my mother-in-law at the time rode from Vanderbilt, the same rail car line, to Corpus to work daily and back home.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a neighbor that about 2 houses down that retired from them, and my growing up experience from 7th grade on was they had a little house with ice in it, the best ice in Bloomington.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow.
And they had shared it because it made too much, and that's where my acquaintance was. I got ice for everything during the hot summer when we were riding our bikes.
Ooh, we could use some of the ice during this warm holiday season.
Yes, we could.
All right, well, we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with our friends from Bloomington. We're continuing the conversation with our friends from Bloomington, Mr. Elroy Alex and Tiki Vengler. All right, so we touched a little bit on the beautiful past of Bloomington, the golden days. And let's talk about the future. It's a little bit more serious topic. Some of the growing pains that have come with the growth of industry, of the nearby plants, it's definitely impacted the community.
The growth of the plants built Bloomington for a large part because those plant families settled there and raised their children there. As the plants are changing, we're seeing a lot of those people move out, which has opened the door for the influx of single homes, the cabins as such, all the different dwellings that have come in that way. And that's not been such a pleasant growth for Bloomington because it's not as family oriented as what we are accustomed to seeing. It has brought improvements, sidewalks, a Dollar General, but we no longer have a cafe. We no longer have those general meeting places for community members, and we don't have the family atmosphere that we're missing.
The family atmosphere is so important, and it is a lot of workers, a lot of single adults.
Yes.
There just for a little while.
Yes.
So it's hard to build those connections with those workers.
Yes.
But we're thankful for the industry.
Absolutely.
Yes. But in saying that, the plant industry is not our tax base. We don't receive anything from them, so it makes things even more difficult. The railroad is pretty much our only tax base in Bloomington.
And frustrating,
yes,
I can imagine, because
frustrating.
they profit off of.
Yes. Half of them go towards Port Lavaca and half of them go towards Victoria, and we're kind of like stuck in the middle. And maybe it's because we're not incorporated, but that's the issue. Really.
Incorporation. That was a
There's a topic.
That was a big topic, or continues to be a big one, with the villages of Bloomington, the first filing for incorporation.
Correct.
That didn't quite seem to be right.
Well, when you take an incorporation petition and use that to divide a community, that doesn't fit with the Bloomington that we know. And that's what's come in with this influx of new inhabitants. And there are many, many small family groups that have come in that are wonderful and will be a wonderful addition to Bloomington. But when you bring an incorporation petition that takes a slice out of the middle, utilizes the water department, the tax base, and the elementary school, that is, to my way of thinking, obviously a grab for the tax base and control of a community, because a half mile outside of that area is considered extraterritorial jurisdiction. And while that area outside of the incorporated community is not allowed to vote, they are under the control of that incorporated community. Which is why there was another petition put forth that included what the Census Bureau says is Bloomington, the entirety of our community. And that's the Bloomington that we know, the Bloomington that we'd like to return to, an inclusive community that makes room for all members to be a part of. When you look at Elroy, this is a gentleman who went to the school board, talked to them about some of our students don't have a place to raise an animal for the stock show. He had land donated so that they now have FFA barns and a place where they can raise their animals. He's been involved with our water board, redoing bylaws for the water board previously. Very community-minded individuals that are there in the town that worked for the good of all members in the community. I taught school there for 15 years. We love the town that we know.
Yeah, and now it's about the fight to preserve it.
Yes.
Yes.
And for a brighter future, which we'll get to in just a few minutes.
Here we go.
Right after this break, we will continue the conversation about Bloomington. We'll be right back. With our friends from Bloomington, Mr. Elroy Alex and Tiki Vengler. So we're now moving to the future of Bloomington with this new nonprofit, Bloomington Stronger Together. I hear you've had quite a hand in this, Elroy.
Yeah, I helped generate a bylaws for our organization that has been started, and it's well overdue. We needed to have this organization a long time ago to get things in order in Bloomington, regardless of incorporations or whatever. This is just to get things right. Lights for when kids, bus stops, at night, kids walking to the store or whatever. We just need the safety. We need to improve the safety. So this is really going to help through all the funds and all the grants that we work on getting.
And because there's a lot of work to be done, and thinking back to the town hall that the county judge held there in Bloomington, it's really up to y'all. They really can't do much in the way of advocacy because they're supposed to be that neutral government agency.
Right.
So it's up to the people of Bloomington. Yep. And y'all are meeting on Tuesdays?
Third Tuesday of the month.
The third Tuesday every month. Where at?
At the VFW Hall.
At the VFW Hall. For those of us that aren't familiar with Bloomington, I know where the church is, the Catholic Church. How far away is it from there?
If you come to Bloomington from Victoria, hit this one traffic light in town, take a right, and you're about a half a mile down on the left. You'll cross the tracks, and it's another 2.5 blocks on the left. On the left.
And y'all are going to be organizing these meetings. What can we expect as far as agenda items in the months to come, coming up to the May 3rd election day?
Right. Agenda items, we're asking community members to let us know their areas of concern so that we can address those for the community. Absolutely community involvement, which is what has been missing. So community suggestions, community involvement. We have committees already in place that are looking at lighting solutions, looking at fundraising for attorneys' fees or printing fees, anything that we might need. We have a committee set for Keep Bloomington Beautiful, which she found out, by the way, the title's already been taken by a group who claims to be extremely active, but I sent you some pictures that shows they're not so much active.
Oh, wow.
Let's see, fundraising, what else do we have?
Grant writing.
The grant writing. I took a short class on writing grants and have another community member ready and willing to jump in and help. We've had offers of help for everything that we're needing. The outpouring of support has been awesome.
It's a great time to get everybody together that through no little leagues or Boy Scouts through the last several years has really separated everybody. We're able to come back together now and figure out each other.
And stay united.
Stay united. That's what it's all about.
Because that's what we're all looking toward on May 3rd, I believe.
Yes.
On that election, or with that election, Bloomington's incorporation is on the ballot. And this is a ballot initiative that y'all are in support of.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because it includes the whole town.
We understand the hardship of raising taxes, but the current situation is such that if we don't create the incorporation for an entire community, that other incorporation that's planning and working is going to create it for a very divided community. And that is not the Bloomington that we'd like to present to anyone or live in.
Well, I'm hoping for the best for the entire community of Bloomington. We'll continue our coverage as that election day nears, and even after election day, the work won't be done. There'll be still more to come.
Lots of work to do.
Lots of work. Lots of work.
Well, thank y'all so much for joining us this morning on Community Crossroads.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Be sure to catch us next week with Community Crossroads.